Hey guys, tonight we set sail into the salted wind and uncertain fog of the Viking world. Not into battle, not into myth, but straight into the crumb, strewn belly of a longboat. You're not a warrior. Not yet. You're just someone who drew the short straw this season, tossed a pack together, kissed a confused goodbye, and found yourself wobbling across the gangplank of a vessel that looks like it was designed by someone with strong opinions and no understanding of comfort. Your first taste of the journey. A hunk of hard bread so dense you briefly consider using it to club a fish. And that's just breakfast. This is the Viking snack economy, rugged, weird, occasionally questionable, and utterly essential to surviving days. Or weeks. At sea. You probably won't survive this with all your teeth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from, and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The boat rocks gently beneath your feet. The wood creaks with each slap of wave and muscle. And someone, definitely Bjorn, has already started chewing loudly. Your fingers fumble through a sack tied to the mast. Inside, bread. But not the soft, fresh, baked kind. No, this is hardtack. A word that promises misery and delivers on every syllable. It's not stale, per se. It started stale. Baked dry and flat. These brick, like slabs, are built to survive mold, damp, and time itself. They are food in the technical sense. Edible in the way a plank might be, if you soak it long enough. Still, you chew. Because chewing is what keeps you from thinking too hard about what's to come. You're not alone. Around you, men pass around chunks of the same bread, dunking it in whatever liquid they have. Ale, water, even broth if they're lucky. Someone's already chipped a molar. No one says anything. Vikings aren't big on dental complaints. You lean back, squinting into the sky. Gray. Always gray. A gull shrieks somewhere behind you, hoping for scraps. Poor bird. There are no scraps on this ship. Now and then, a bit of salt pork appears. It smells familiar. Sweaty leather, seaweed, and something that might once have been pig. But it's calories, and calories are king out here. A fun fact, if you can call it fun, Vikings didn't use salt just for flavor. They used it as preservation magic. Without refrigeration, you either salted it, smoked it, or watched it rot. Sometimes all three. You take a bite. It's chewy. It fights back. You win. Barely. And just as you're about to wash it down, you remember, the water barrel hasn't been refilled since 2 days ago. The water is warm, slightly brown, and smells of old rope. You drink anyway. There's a certain romance to all this. But it's the kind of romance that ends with you sleeping next to a guy who sweats fish and snores in Old Norse. Across the deck, someone pulls out a pouch of dried peas. You didn't even know peas could dry like that. They roll like pebbles. You pop one in your mouth and instantly regret it. Still, you chew. You're becoming one with the rhythm. Chew. Rock. Swallow. Cough. Repeat. Evening settles. Someone passes around a jar. Fermented goat milk. You take the tiniest sip. It tastes like betrayal and aftershocks. But it's rich in protein. Supposedly. You stare out to sea, jaw still sore. You wonder if anyone brought berries. Or anything with texture that doesn't require a warhammer. Historians still argue whether Vikings brought dried fruits on long voyages. Some evidence points to figs and dates traded through southern routes. Others say such luxuries wouldn't have lasted, or would have been hoarded by the chieftains. You, personally, suspect the dried fruits are a myth. You've seen what passes for dessert here. It's oat, colored. By the time night thickens, you're lying back on a coil of rope, half, full and fully exhausted. You hear Bjorn mutter in his sleep about cheese wheels and pickled turnips. You envy him. And as the stars prick through the clouds, you close your eyes, your stomach still quietly at war with the hardtack. There's no turning back now. Tomorrow, mystery ale, spoiled fish, and whatever else passes for snack on this floating wooden stomach. Sleep well. You'll need it. The next morning begins not with a sunrise, but with the unmistakable sound of someone gagging quietly over the side of the boat. You sit up, bleary-eyed, your mouth dry and lined with breadcrumbs that may or may not be from yesterday's bread, or possibly from your dream about eating sand. A horn sounds. Not the dramatic kind, just a short, grumpy blast that means it's time for ale. You squint at the man holding the drinking horn. His expression is grim. His beard contains at least one breadcrumb and possibly a fish scale. He hands you the horn with a nod that says, "Good luck." You brace yourself. This is not the ale you know from taverns or festivals. No tavern girl is going to wink at you while you sip this stuff. This is journey ale, made in a barrel that's seen too many seasons and too few rinses. You take a sip. It's wet. That's the best thing you can say about it. There's barely any alcohol in it, if any. Just old barley mash, water, a hint of mold, and dreams of beer long gone. See, the word ale on a Viking boat is a generous label. Some of it was brewed properly before departure. Some of it was just stale water mixed with toasted grain for color. And some of it was an experiment someone clearly should not have attempted. You hand the horn back and try not to breathe too deeply through your nose. A rower nearby chuckles. You get used to it, he says. He takes a long swig and immediately coughs. Eventually, some of the crew still have their own stash of stronger stuff. Little pouches of mead or spiced wine hidden beneath cloaks or wedged in boots. But those are for serious cold. For the kind of night where you start to wonder if your toes are still technically attached. For now, it's fake ale or nothing. You choose fake ale. The wind picks up. You see clouds gathering far off, gray and heavy, like they know things you don't. Breakfast arrives in the form of a communal pot. It sloshes with something. Beige. You lean in. It's barley gruel. Again. Some say the Vikings carried oat porridge or barley mash, cooked quickly over a little brazier when the sea was calm. What you're looking at now is evidence that the sea was not calm. It's lumpy, sour, smelling, and someone definitely stirred it with a weapon. You eat anyway. You always do. A curious thing, some of the older crew members murmur about how this was once a feast. How in the good old days they had stews thick with onion, chunks of lamb, even leeks and garlic. But then again, those same men also claim to have fought a sea serpent, so you take it with a pinch of salt, which, incidentally, is the most valuable thing on this boat. Salt is currency. Salt preserves. Salt flavors. Salt saves. and the tiny pouch you keep tucked under your tunic with just a few flakes of it. You guard it more closely than your axe. Historians still argue whether Viking ale had consistent recipes. Some believe each family or ship brewed their own version with whatever they had: honey, herbs, berries, tree bark. Others insist there was a regional knowledge passed down, codified, refined. Looking at the horn in your hand, you're inclined to believe in chaos. A sudden wave jostles the boat. The gruel pot wobbles dangerously. Someone yells something about the gods being hungry. You hope they want someone else's breakfast. By mid-morning, your stomach has stopped complaining and settled into a dull, familiar ache. You suck on a dried apple sliver someone traded for a wool mitten. It's chewy, leathery, and tastes faintly of smoke and pocket lint. But the sweetness, it is there. Just enough to lift the corners of your mouth. You look around. Bjorn is asleep on a coil of rope again. The captain is muttering to himself while fixing a sail with his teeth. And the cook is carving strips of dried reindeer meat into something almost edible. It's not glamorous. It's not feast-worthy. But it keeps you moving. That's what food is out here. Fuel. Bargaining chip. Moral support in chewable form. You take another sip of your very unremarkable ale. This time, you don't flinch. By midday, you start to suspect the dried fish is following you. Not in a metaphorical sense. You're fairly certain it's physically stuck to the inside of your cloak. You reach in. Nope. Just a wayward scale. Shiny, sharp, and stubborn. A bit like most of the crew. You're handed a strip of something. It smells like low tide. It tastes like high treason. Fermented fish. They say it's an acquired taste. You're not sure if they mean by humans. Or by wolves. A single bite fills your mouth with salt. See, and a suspicious hint of something you can only describe as sour thunder. You chew anyway. Because that's what you do now. You chew through storms. Through hunger. Through the quiet existential dread of eating a snack that might qualify as a war crime. Vikings dried or fermented fish in bulk. Especially herring, cod, and something called stockfish. The latter is basically fish jerky. No seasoning. No pity. Just a slab of aquatic determination hung outside for weeks until it was drier than Viking humor. It stores well, lasts forever, and doubles as a pretty effective blunt object. You glance at the guy next to you. He's using his dried fish to hammer a tent peg into a crate. You nod. Practical. The deck smells of salt and smoke and men who haven't bathed since the last equinox. You breathe through your mouth, which is unfortunately still full of fish. There are no napkins. There are no plates. There is just salt, crusted wood, calloused hands, and the eternal question, was that supposed to crunch? Across from you, a younger boy, barely old enough to grow chin fuzz, gnaws on a fishtail with the quiet determination of someone trying to forget land ever existed. He offers you a piece. You accept. Because saying no to food on a Viking boat is one step away from declaring a blood feud. You nod in thanks. He nod back, mouth still moving. It's a tender moment. A strange, chewy, vaguely horrifying bonding experience. Some say Vikings even made a stew from dried fish. Soaked, boiled, mashed with a bit of lard or onion. You wonder if that might be better. You also wonder if it would fight back. Historians still argue whether fish was the backbone of Viking sea rations or just a fallback when the smoked meats ran out. There are records from monasteries that suggest Viking raiders smelled strongly, specifically of old fish and sweat. Coincidence? Unlikely. And then there's surströmming, fermented Baltic herring. While likely a more modern Swedish specialty, its roots may trace back further. The idea of letting fish rot into something flavorful is old. Older than comfort. Older than reason. Possibly older than mercy. You find yourself watching the horizon. Not because you're curious about land, but because staring at the sea is slightly more pleasant than watching someone floss with fishbone. You adjust your cloak. The wind whistles through the oar holes. You hear someone open another barrel and instantly regret it. There are no real meals out here. Just edible moments. Food that fuels rowing, fighting, surviving. Snacks that keep your jaw busy and your thoughts quiet. You think about home. About fresh bread. Maybe. A pot of something bubbling. The smell of herbs. But that world feels far away. You're here now. In the land of sun, dried regrets, and salted perseverance. Bjorn mutters something in his sleep. You can't make it out. But you're fairly sure it's an insult directed at a haddock. The fish is gone now. Your stomach isn't sure whether to thank you or sue you. But it settles. And as the afternoon light turns the sea silver, you lean against a barrel, licking the last bit of salt from your fingers. Tomorrow, maybe, you'll find something sweet. Maybe. But for now, you chew. And breathe. And float. The cheese arrives in silence. Not ceremoniously. Not on a tray. Just dropped onto the deck with a muffled thud. You look down. It's a wheel of something beige. Cracked. And alarmingly sturdy. You're not entirely sure it's food. It could just as easily be a building material. Bjorn leans over. Eat around the green bits. He mutters. Then walks away. You crouch beside the cheese. Sniff. Regret. This, apparently, is Viking boat cheese. Made months ago. Left to age in a wooden box. And now dense enough to develop its own opinions. You chip off a corner. It flakes. The texture is halfway between soap and rock. You put it in your mouth. And pause. It's sharp. Sour. Strangely creamy, if you squint your taste buds. And strong. Emotionally strong. There's a reason they call it storage cheese. Not because it's easy to store, but because you can store memories in it. Like disappointment. And resilience. And possibly the scent of someone's boots. You chew. And chew. And chew some more. Then you wash it down with a sip of lukewarm barley drink. Because honestly, you deserve a reward. In the world of Viking snacks, cheese plays a strange role. It's not always available. And when it is, it's often hard, salty, and loud. Not in volume, but in presence. It enters a room before you do. Sometimes made from cow milk. Sometimes goat. Sometimes even mixed with bits of herbs, if someone's feeling fancy. But usually, just curds and pressure and whatever bacteria happen to be loitering nearby. You've heard tales of cheeses so old they squeak. Not when eaten, but when approached. You wonder if that's what's happening now. The wheel on the deck seems alive. Not in the squirmy sense. More like it has opinions about your posture. You cut another slice. Mostly rind. It shatters like a tile. You eat it anyway. The crew gathers slowly, each tearing off a wedge. No one thanks anyone. They just eat in quiet solidarity. Even the captain joins in, chewing while adjusting a sail with one elbow. No one speaks. It's a sacred moment. There is something humbling about sharing ancient cheese with men who fear no god, but deeply fear indigestion. One man offers a smear of something from a tiny pot. Butter. Maybe. Or lard. Or very tired jam. You dab a bit onto the cheese. It doesn't help. But it does make it feel like you're trying. Historians still argue whether Viking cheese was deliberately aged or simply forgotten. Some sources suggest they pressed curds into hard wheels on purpose. Others say they just ate what hadn't rotted completely. You believe in a third theory. They made cheese because they had milk, no time, and an alarming tolerance for flavor violence. As the sun dips lower, you feel the boat shift. Not in course, but in mood. There's a sleepiness now, a fullness, a pause between chewing and rowing where men stare at the sea and pretend they aren't thinking about constipation. You pick cheese from your teeth with the corner of a wooden spoon. You wonder if this same cheese will be here tomorrow, or the next day, or if, eventually, it will become a permanent member of the crew. There's even a rumor that one ship had a cheese that lasted the entire trip to Miklagard and back. They called it Old Friend. You believe it. You're halfway to naming this one yourself. A gull swoops low, sniffs the air, and veers away violently. Smart bird. Night falls slow. The stars blink on, one by one. You sit back, belly heavy, tongue tingling, lips slightly numb. Viking cheese may not be elegant, but it works. And for now, you're full. You're quiet. And you're still afloat. By the fifth day, you begin to notice a pattern. Those who sit closest to the food barrels eat better. Not fancier. Not fresher. Just more often. There's a rhythm to it now. The quiet way Bjorn sharpens his blade next to the bread sack. The way the oarsman with the biggest beard always just happens to be standing by the pickled fish crate at meal call. You're learning. Quickly. Because food, on a Viking longboat, isn't just nourishment. It's a negotiation. The chieftain gets first pick. Then the steersman. Then the favored warriors. The lucky traders. And the friends of people who own better cloaks than you. By the time the ladle reaches you, it's mostly gruel film and the smell of what used to be soup. Still, you've figured out the system. Not with status, but with timing. You volunteer to check the meat barrels right before every meal. You accidentally clean your shield next to the dried berry pouch. You invent reasons to stand between the raisins and the wind. This is the Viking snack hierarchy. And while no one will admit it, everyone knows it's real. The older crew members pretend otherwise. They mutter about equality, about brotherhood at sea, then pocket the last honey cake when no one's looking. You watch. You adapt. You chew when chewing is safest. Because the truth is, no one wants to argue over food when everyone has weapons. Even meals are tactical. If someone takes your sausage, you don't confront them during stew hour. You wait. You remember. You settle it during rowing shifts or by stealing their spoon next time it rains. Today's ration, dried lamb. It smells like smoke and wool. Tastes like memories of lamb. But you get 2 pieces. And that, by current standards, makes you wealthy. You offer one to the boy next to you. He accepts. You nod. That's how alliances are formed. Historians often talk about Viking food in terms of scarcity or survival. But they miss the unspoken politics of the boat. Who eats what? Who sits where? Who has a second spoon? These things matter. They build status. Or strip it away. One of the rowers hoards hazelnuts. You know it. Everyone knows it. But no one dares confront him. He's huge. And once bit a rope in half just to prove a point. There's also the guy who slices his dried fruit into slivers and hides them in his boot lining. He eats one piece at a time. Like a squirrel monk. You're not judging. You're studying. The longer you're on this boat, the more you realize the snack economy is real. And it's ruthless. Someone offers you a handful of something small and crunchy. Toasted barley. You chew. It pops between your teeth like tiny fireworks. Not delicious, but oddly satisfying. You make a mental note to find that guy again. Offer him a favor. Maybe share some dried turnip later. You have connections. Historians still argue whether food rations aboard Viking ships were equally distributed or strictly hierarchical. Some evidence suggests shared bowls, communal spoons, open fairness. Other records, poems, even, hint at fights over scraps, and secret stashes hidden beneath shields. From your spot near the salted meat crate, you lean toward the second theory. You scratch your beard, even if you don't have one. It's a habit now. Makes you look older. A nearby sailor drops his cheese. It bounces. No one flinches. You wonder, not for the first time, what happens if someone steals someone else's plum? Does it start a duel? Or just a silent decade of resentment? Food equals power here. Not gold. Not honor. Not even blood. Just who gets the last bite of dried pear. And as the sun slips low and someone ladles out another pot of mush, you move early. You slide your bowl forward. You smile just enough. You get a ladle with actual substance. Victory. Quiet. Steamy. Edible. Victory. You'd think that, by now, meals would be routine. Quick, quiet affairs where each man eats his portion, nods at his neighbor, and gets back to rowing. But no. This is a Viking longboat. And on Viking longboats, everything is a power play, including lunch. You sit down near the mast, bowl in hand. It's gruel again. Oats this time, laced with flecks of dried onion. You're grateful, which is strange. But the bar is low these days. You look up, just in time to see two men glaring at each other over a dried sausage. No one says a word. One of them raises an eyebrow. The other flexes a bicep. Someone coughs meaningfully into a tankard. Ah, yes. Snack standoff. The captain notices. He doesn't intervene. He just leans back and slowly carves a wedge out of his personal cheese wheel. This is what mealtime looks like when everyone's armed, underfed, and deeply invested in their snacks. You eat slowly, deliberately, trying not to look too interested in the sausage drama. Because here, etiquette isn't about manners. It's about survival. You don't speak with your mouth full, but not because it's polite. Because if you're chewing, you can't argue. You don't reach across someone's bowl, unless you're ready to lose a finger. And you definitely don't finish someone else's portion, even if they appear to be done. That's how knives get thrown. Food is sacred, even if it's awful. Especially if it's awful. There's a sort of reverence to the whole ritual. Silent eating. eyes half lidded, chewing like monks contemplating a particularly chewy scripture. And when someone breaks the rhythm, like today, when Eric accidentally drops a spoon into the stew pot, everyone notices. The splash echoes. The silence deepens. Eric retrieves the spoon. He nods once, sits back down, never speaks of it again. You've learned that the unspoken rules of Viking dining aren't written anywhere. They're absorbed through mistakes, glances, and occasionally small fist fights. You've also learned where to sit. Too close to the cook, you'll get roped into stirring. Too far back, cold stew. No second helpings. Possibly a whack from the ladle if you complain. Somewhere in the middle, that's where the magic happens. Bjorn, as always, has staked his claim near the salted nut bag. You respect it. He has the look of a man who has fought for nuts before. Today, though, something odd happens. Someone shares. The old man with the missing ear offers a strip of honeyed root to the rower beside him. No words. Just a hand extended, palm open. It's shocking. Profound. Possibly a religious experience. The younger man accepts. Chews. Nods. You feel a flutter of warmth in your chest. Or indigestion. Could go either way. Historians still argue whether Viking mealtime had formal rituals or was purely practical. Some sagas speak of feasts with order, toasts, and storytelling. Others suggest sea rations were consumed in silence, with little ceremony. But from where you sit, watching men guard their bowls like dragons hoarding treasure, you'd say both are true. There is ceremony, just not the pretty kind. It's in the pauses, the trading, the subtle tilt of a spoon that means, I'll swap you this for that. And yes, the rare, magical moment when someone offers you a dried plum and doesn't expect a favor in return. Evening creeps in. The sea darkens. The bowls are licked clean, stacked beside a bucket that's seen better centuries. You lean back against a rolled up sail. Your stomach is calm. Your limbs are tired. And as the crew settles into their own quiet corners, you think about how food, basic, bland, sometimes borderline tragic, has become the one thing that keeps you all tethered together. That, and the unspoken rule, never touch Bjorn's nuts. You wake to the sound of arguing. Not loud, just tense. Quiet, pointed words in Old Norse. Sharp as flint, soft as fog. You sit up. Stretch. The deck creaks. Your back creaks louder. It's barely dawn, but a crowd has already formed around the middle crates. You shuffle over. Peek through shoulders and elbows. It's about the hazelnuts. Specifically, who took them? How many? And whether borrowing means the same thing when the nuts in question were inside someone's shoe. You try not to smile. You fail. Because on this long, rattling journey across endless water, food isn't just food. It's barter. It's status. It's emotional currency. The accused stands firm. Arms crossed. Boot empty. Dignity intact. He claims he thought the nuts were abandoned, which is a bold stance, given that they were wrapped in cloth, sealed with twine, and labeled in runes. Someone suggests a duel. Someone else suggests a group vote. Bjorn suggests tossing them both overboard and splitting the nuts. You sip your morning barley water and pretend not to listen. Because this isn't just a squabble. It's the snack economy in action. Back home, Coins speak. Here. Dried fruit, nuts, honey, and the last crumb of goat cheese shout. You've seen men trade a square of oatcake for a promise of shield support in the next raid. You've seen dried apples exchanged for stories. And, once, a single fig used to settle a long, standing insult involving someone's uncle and a sheep. Today, the boat holds its breath over a sack of hazelnuts. And it makes sense, because those little round treasures are rare. Sweet, nutty, portable, and unlike fish, they don't try to gaslight your digestive system. You remember your own stash. 3 hazelnuts hidden in your belt pouch. You haven't touched them. Not because you don't want to, but because you know their real value isn't taste. It's timing. You imagine, days from now, a cold afternoon, morale low, and you pull out one nut. Crack it slowly. Let the scent waft. Watch men gather like gulls. Maybe you trade it for a clean drinking horn, or a turn sleeping near the warm barrel. Power. That's what snacks become. And sometimes, literal currency. Historians still argue whether Viking crews used food as barter or if it was strictly distributed. Some archaeological finds, carefully divided rations, notes etched in wood, suggest order. Others, uneven remains, personal stashes buried in graves, point toward hoarding and trade. You've lived it. It's both. Order when watched. Chaos when no one's looking. The nut thief eventually relents. Returns one of the 3. Keeps the other 2 as interest. Surprisingly, this works. Everyone nods. Conflict averted. Bjorn still looks mildly disappointed there wasn't a duel. But he's chewing something, so he's calm again. Later, during rowing shift, the man with the hazelnuts shares a single one with the rower beside him. A peace gesture. A future favor. Possibly both. You turn your gaze out to sea. The water sparkles in the morning light. Your stomach rumbles. You reach into your pouch. Feel the nuts. Still there. Still powerful. You don't eat them. Not yet. You smile. Because in a world where the wind is merciless and the sea has no bedtime, you've got leverage. 3 small, perfect, priceless hazelnuts. The wind changes by midday. Not enough to shift course, but enough to shift mood. You're rowing now. Oar in hand. Back sore. Arms aching. Stomach oddly optimistic. Because you know what comes next. Raid rations. It's not a full meal. It's more like a warm up. A morale boost. A calculated dose of calories before swords are drawn and chaos spills onto shore. Someone yells from the front. A flat stone is passed down the line. Upon it, strips of something brown and glistening. You pause. Sniff. Cautious optimism. It's meat. Smoked. Maybe even spiced. Thick. Cut. Slightly sticky. Like jerky made by a blacksmith with a soft spot. You take a piece. Bite. Chew. Flavor. Real flavor. Salt. Yes. But also a trace of honey. And maybe juniper. It's hard to tell. But it's wonderful. You don't speak. No one does. This is not the time for jokes or commentary. This is ritual. The raid snack is not just food. It's psychology. The Vikings didn't always eat well. But when they had to, they made it count. Hi. Fat. High. Protein. Compact. Designed to travel light and punch hard. This meat, whatever animal it once was, has been prepared with intention. Dried slowly. Rubbed with herbs. Maybe even touched by smoke from a sacred fire. Or maybe it's just particularly effective pig. Hard to say. You're not complaining. You wash it down with a sip of something strong. Barley wine. You think. Maybe mead. Warm from being tucked under someone's armpit too long. Still. It burns. It wakes you up. The boat quiets. Not from fear, but from focus. You feel it ripple through the crew. This is what it's all been building toward. The weird cheese. The indestructible bread. The fermented fish trauma. All of it leads here, to the moment just before action. Historians still argue whether Viking raids were meticulously planned or chaotic opportunism. Some say there were detailed strategies, coded signals, even weather readings. Others believe it was mostly land. Scream. Grab what you can. But they all agree on this. The Vikings didn't raid hungry. They knew the power of preparedness and the sharpness that comes with a full, if slightly uneasy, stomach. You finish your strip of meat. It sits heavy, but right. Someone tosses you a ball of something dense. Oats, fat, honey, and crushed nuts. You recognize it. Battle cake. A portable, punchy, gritty little orb of fuel. Sweet, but not dessert. More like edible courage. You eat half. Pocket the rest. Smart. Always plan for the second wave. The coastline appears. Faint and hazy. You feel the boat shift. Rowers adjusting grip. Eyes narrowing. No one says, "Get ready." The snack already said it for them. Food. Here. Is armor. And the pre-raid bite is the shield around your fear. You grip your oar. Not because you're rowing, but because you need something to hold. The waves slap harder now. The air tastes of pine and coming thunder. You don't think about what's next. Not yet. You think about the meat. The heat. The fire in your chest from that last sip of meat. You think about how, for one glorious bite, you didn't feel tired, or cold, or seasick. You just felt ready. And that, more than any blade, might be the most powerful weapon a Viking carries. You've been aboard long enough to know when something smells wrong. And today, it's the butter. It comes out of a barrel no one remembers loading. The lid creaks. The crew leans in, then immediately leans back. You, brave and foolish, take a cautious sniff. It smells like cheese that lost a fight in a bog. Bjorn nods solemnly. Perfect. You blink. Sorry. Perfect. He scoops some onto a hunk of bread. Smears it like he's painting a masterpiece. Then eats it in 2 bites. Wipes his beard. Burps softly. No one stops him. No one questions him. You've stumbled into a new layer of Viking cuisine. Rancid butter. Known in some sagas as sour hoard. This was butter left to ferment underground for weeks or even months. Sometimes buried in clay jars. Sometimes just aged in barrels until it developed character. You try it. Well, it's a flavor. Like smoky regret. With hints of foot and possibly justice. You chew slowly. Your tongue tries to file a complaint. Your stomach says, Don't you dare? And yet, you understand. This butter isn't just food. It's strategy. On a raid, you don't just want to win. You want the enemy to panic, to smell you before they see you, to taste defeat in the air. Imagine charging up a beach smelling like that butter. The psychological warfare alone is worth the bloating. Historians still argue whether this fermented butter, called smjor or sursmor, was eaten daily or reserved for rituals and war. Some believe it was treasured, even gifted between chieftains. Others think it was a last resort, when all other fat was gone. Either way, it's here. And it's potent. You pass the barrel down. Reactions vary. A grimace. A prayer. A silent tear. One man just bites his lip and stares into the horizon like he's seen a ghost made of dairy. And yet, no one refuses it. Calories are calories. And this stuff could power a small ox. You rub your fingers on your cloak. The grease clings. The smell follows. It never leaves. Not truly. Later, a bit of it melts in the sun and leaks through a crack in the deck. Someone yells. It drips onto a helmet. That helmet is now cursed. Still, there's something comforting in the ritual. The way people gather. The unspoken agreement that yes, this tastes like defeat. But it's our defeat. Shared. Smeared. Survived. And after comes the silence. That moment where everyone's mouth is too occupied to argue. Where all you hear is the creak of the boat and the occasional gulp of someone trying to finish their bite without blinking. You find a seat near the edge. Let your feet dangle. Breathe through your mouth. Wonder what other horrors they're hiding in those barrels. The fish was bad. The cheese was challenging. But the butter feels like a dare from the ancestors. Still, you're fed. You're awake. You're somehow stronger. And now, you're ready. Because if you can eat that, you can face anything. There is a man on the boat who calls himself a cook. You've seen him. Broad. Shouldered. Quiet. Eyes like wet iron. He sharpens axes in the morning. Stirs stew with the same knife he uses to trim sail rope. And once, you saw him crack a walnut with his forehead. His name might be Arn. Or it might just be Hay. No one's brave enough to ask. Today, he's making stew. Which is concerning. Because yesterday, he was patching a spear wound with beeswax and a prayer. You wander over. He's crouched by the brazier. A shallow metal bowl balanced over coals that are struggling in the sea breeze. In the pot, a mysterious brown slop. Something floats. Could be meat. Could be boot. You sniff. Your eyes water. He stirs once. Pauses. Tastes it with his pinky. Grunts. Adds something from a pouch that looks suspiciously like powdered moss. You take a seat nearby, pretending to mend your sandal. Just watching. Learning. Fearing. Stew is a luxury on a longboat. It requires time, patience, ingredients that haven't molded into political statements. But Arn is committed, and no one stops him. Not just because he's the size of a small barn, but because, somehow, his stew works. Eventually, the first few spoons are always terrifying. But once the flavors settle, once your expectations are thoroughly destroyed, you begin to appreciate it. You line up with the others. Pull out. Eyes down. mouth quietly whispering a protective charm. You get your ladleful. It's thick, chunky, hints of meat, turnip, sour apple, and what you swear is seawater and resentment. You taste it. It's not bad. It's not good. It's motivating. You eat slowly, each bite warming you from the inside like a slow, simmering rage. You glance over at Arn. He's back to sharpening a harpoon. The pot bubbles behind him like it knows better than to misbehave. Historians still argue whether Viking ships had designated cooks or just rotated duties. Some claim every crew had at least one man who specialized in making things edible. Others suggest everyone took turns, which could explain a lot. You believe in Arn. Or at least you believe that if he wanted to, he could convince even the gods to eat turnips again. You ask no questions. You chew. You survive. There's a comfort in it now. The routine of strange stew, questionable meat, and Arnie's silent supervision. No one compliments him. Not directly. But no one complains either. That is the compliment. One man licks his bowl. Another asks for seconds and receives a silent nod, an honor rarely granted. You feel oddly safe, knowing that no matter what chaos the day brings, Arn will be there, stirring something unholy, making it mostly edible, feeding a crew that would otherwise be gnawing on salted rope by now. As the sun dips low, the stew pot is scraped clean. A lone carrot chunk clings to the edge. No one dares reach for it. It belongs to Arn now. You retreat to your corner. Stomach full. Mouth confused. Soul steady. Because sometimes, all it takes is a strange, smoky stew to remind you, you are alive. You are not in charge. And you definitely do not mess with the man who cooks with a spear. The deeper you go into this journey, the more the boat itself becomes part of your diet. Not literally. Yet. But it's starting to feel that way. Everything smells like food. Or used to. The ropes smell like smoked fish. The sails have absorbed enough onion fumes to qualify as stew. And somewhere beneath the deck, something always smells vaguely of leak and regret. Today, you're navigating the tight corridor between crates. It's your turn to check supplies, which mostly means wading through barrels of half, forgotten hopes, and accidentally stepping on someone's secret berry stash. You duck under a beam, squeeze between crates of iron tools and salted meat. You find a small sack, labeled with runes you can't read and sealed with wax. You open it. Carefully. Inside, crumbs. Crumbs of what once may have been oat cakes. Or travel bread. Or possibly an early form of despair in biscuit shape. You pocket the largest piece. Waste not. The way Vikings packed food wasn't random. Every item had to pull double duty. Barrels were layered. Grain on the bottom. Dried fruit in the middle. Cheese wrapped in wool on top. Not for flavor. For balance. Some crates held bread on one side. Onions on the other. To keep each from spoiling too fast. Or maybe just to keep the bread from getting lonely. There's an art to this cargo logic. A rhythm. A hierarchy. You reach another stack. This one smells wet. Like pickled something. You pry open the lid. Inside, turnips. They glare up at you, offended at being disturbed. You nod. Respectfully. Then close the lid. You find jars of dried berries layered with wax and sand. Barrels of salted herring packed tighter than a warrior's emotions. and one suspiciously quiet sack that, upon opening, turns out to contain nothing but onions. Raw. Sharp. Judgmental. Historians still argue whether Viking cargo was systematically organized or just aggressively shoved into place. Some claim every boat had a master packer. Others say it depended entirely on how much ale was consumed the night before launch. You believe the truth lies somewhere in between. Careful planning, followed by total chaos once someone needed their spoon right now. You shift a crate and uncover a slab of smoked meat wrapped in birch bark. You sniff. It's strong, salty, and smells faintly of tree. You break off a chunk. Chew slowly. Delicious is the wrong word, but solid fits. You lean against a barrel, bite in hand, listening to the boat creak like it's telling you a bedtime story in whale song. And you realize something. These aren't just supplies. They're survival choreography. The bread must stay dry. The dried fruit must stay cool. The fish must be eaten in order, or it will start to stage a coup. Even the jars of honey are wrapped in wool to keep them from cracking. Because nothing says morale failure like a leaking jar of sticky doom mid-voyage. You step around a pile of kindling, duck beneath hanging ropes, and emerge back into the open air with a deeper understanding of what holds this boat together. Not nails, not faith, not oars or prayers, but snacks. Meticulously packed, tightly wedged, lovingly hoarded snacks. You tuck the oatcake crumb into your pouch. You earned it. And if someone asks, you found it next to the dried elk nose. No one will question you, because cargo logic is sacred. And sometimes, you eat what the boat gives you. It starts with a shout. Short, sharp, followed by a terrible silence. Then another voice. Angry, tired, hungry. You poke your head above a stack of firewood just in time to see the oat sack hit the deck. Empty. Not almost empty. Not light but salvageable. Just. Completely. Horrifyingly. Heartbreakingly empty. The crew stares. No one breathes. Even the seagulls seem to pause mid-screech. You feel it ripple across the boat. The realization. The snacks are gone. Not all of them. But enough. Enough to cause tension. Enough to start whisper. Level accusations. Enough for Bjorn to grip his spoon like it's an axe. You swallow. Hard. Partially from stress. Partially because you were chewing on the last raisin you didn't realize was the last raisin. Someone blames the rat. Someone else suggests over. Snacking. Someone looks at you. You raise your hands. Empty. For now. This is what hunger does. It turns grown warriors into suspicious toddlers. Food becomes memory. Nostalgia. Myth. Remember the stew from last week? Someone says. Eyes misty. The one with the turnip. No. The other one. With the onion. No. The other one. You try to recall. It's all a blur of brown, gray, and occasional crunches of mystery. Someone sighs. Someone sharpens something. Someone starts rearranging crates, as if snacks might reappear through brewed optimism. You feel the mood shifting, from camaraderie to calculation. And then, the whisper starts. Hidden stash. 2 words. Barely audible, but they land like thunder. Eyes dart. Boots shuffle. Pouches tighten. Because everyone has considered hiding food. And some probably have. Historians still argue whether Viking crews pooled all supplies or hoarded privately. Some accounts praise their communal spirit. One barrel, one spoon, one soul. Others suggest that even among brothers, in arms, a pocketful of smoked cheese was never really shared. You believe in the shadows, in the hollowed out or handle that doubles as a nut locker, in the helmet that rattles suspiciously when tilted, in Bjorn's beard, which could easily be hiding 3 biscuits and a dried pear. A search begins. Politely. At first. Backpacks are shaken. Sleeping mats are patted down. Then less politely. Barrels are pried open. Crates are overturned. Someone flips over a pile of cloaks like they're interrogating a goose. No snacks. Until a noise. Thunk. Everyone turns. Someone has stepped on a loose board. Beneath it, a shallow gap, lined with wool. And inside, a bundle, wrapped tight, smelling faintly of honey. One side glistens. There's a hint of dried apple. Gasps. The stash. It's real. You look around. No one moves. Then the cook, Arn, terrifying as ever, steps forward. He lifts the bundle, unwraps it, sniffs, grunts. He doesn't accuse. He doesn't name names. He just divides it. Right there. Bare hands. Equal pieces. No drama. The tension breaks. A crumb passes from hand to hand like a blessing. You receive a sliver of something chewy. Fruit leather. Maybe. Or smoked honey root. You bite. Sweetness floods your mouth. Brief. Bright. Gone. But it's enough. You sit in silence. The sun warming your shoulders. The taste still clinging faintly to your teeth. Someone jokes. Someone laughs. Someone hiccups. And just like that, you're back. Still hungry. Still tired. But no longer afraid of each other. At least. Not for now. You wake up to the sound of humming. Soft. Low. Almost melodic. Coming from the front of the boat. Not a song. Just a sound. You sit up. Rub your eyes. Sniff. And that's when you smell it. Sweet. Unmistakably sweet. Something warm and sticky and entirely on. Fish. Like. You scramble to your feet. Try to look casual. Fail immediately. You're not alone. The entire crew is slowly orbiting the smell like confused bees. There, at the center, a small clay jar, cracked at the lip, steaming slightly in the cool morning air. Someone dips in a spoon, raises it. Amber glistens. A drip falls in slow motion. Honey. But not just honey. You catch a glimpse. Dried berries. Maybe cranberries or lingonberries. Suspended inside. They look like jewels in syrup. You've forgotten how color works on this boat. Everything has been beige, brown, or gray for days. Now suddenly, red. Gold. You inch forward. Your fingers twitch. A crust of bread is passed your way. Thin. Stale. But blessed by proximity. You hold it like treasure. A dollop of the mixture is dropped on top. You pause. Close your eyes. Take a bite. Time stops. There's crunch, then softness, then sweetness. Actual sweetness. Not fermented. Not pickled. Not salted into submission. Just sweet. You chew slowly. Gratefully. Your eyes sting a little. Could be salt air. Could be emotion. You'll never tell. Someone makes a joke. Something about dessert being a mythical creature. Someone else calls this raid cake. It sticks. Turns out, this was meant for landfall. A morale booster. A celebration. But with tempers high and nerves thin, the captain made the call. Open it now. Good call. Even Bjorn looks soft-eyed, mouth slightly sticky, cheeks puffed like a satisfied bear. The jar goes around slowly. Each man gets one spoonful. No more. No less. It's not just about fairness. It's about reverence. This is a moment. Historians still argue whether Vikings had sweet foods on long voyages. Some say honey was too precious, too rare to waste at sea. Others note that beekeeping and trade routes made it possible. If not common, then at least occasional. You're living the answer now. Sticky fingers. Berry. Stained teeth. A crumb in your beard that you plan to savor for the rest of the day. You glance around. Arn is smiling. The quiet boy near the prow is licking his thumb. Even the captain looks lighter. Funny what a little sweetness can do. Someone hums again. Same tune. Maybe a lullaby. Maybe just noise. You hum along. Softly. The waves slap gently against the hull. The sun glows like melted gold on the water. And for the first time in a long while, you don't feel hungry. You feel human. There's power in that. Not just strength for the next storm, but memory. This sweetness, it roots you. Reminds you what you're rowing toward. Not just land. Not just loot. But something good. You lie back. Lips still sticky. The air smells better now. Or maybe you do. Tomorrow, you'll chew dried fish again. Tomorrow, the butter might come back. Tomorrow, someone will fight over onions. But today you had honey. And that changes everything. The cold rolls in before dawn. Not a dramatic freeze. Just that creeping, steady kind of chill that settles into your fingertips and doesn't leave. You wake up with your blanket tangled, your toes numb, and a rock, hard biscuit wedged between your ribs. You try to move. Fail. Try again. Success, but with sound effects. Someone nearby sneezes. Someone else curses the wind in 3 languages. A voice croaks. Breakfast. You groan. Not out of protest. Just in preparation. Because cold mornings on a Viking longboat mean only one thing. Cold bread. You sit up, reach into your pouch, and pull out a round of flatbread so stiff it could double as a weapon. You knock it gently against the wood beside you. It thunks. You try to bite it. It resists. Someone chuckles. Break your fast or break your teeth. You find a rock. You try to saw the bread on its edge like it's an old log. Eventually, you manage a corner. You chew. And chew. And chew. It's flour, water, and frost. No herbs. No salt. Just survival. The cold saps more than heat. It drains humor, energy, willpower. You try to warm the bread with your breath. It mocks you. Bjorn, of course, takes out his breakfast and smashes it gently with the hilt of his knife. The bread crumbles. He eats the pieces like gravel, flavored popcorn. You copy him. It helps. Barely. Someone swears they saw frost forming on their water flask. Someone else is shaking dried peas in a pouch, hoping they'll warm by friction. The stew barrel is empty. The fish barrel is frozen shut. It's going to be that kind of day. Historians still argue whether Vikings faced food. Freezing conditions on longboats. Some say the hull stayed warm enough. Between bodies, tar, and layers of fur. Others believe that food often froze, cracked, or needed to be thawed under armpits before eating. You vote with your molars. This bread definitely spent the night dreaming of Iceland. But cold or not, you eat. Because hunger is louder than cold. You nibble on a frozen turnip slice. It crunches. You try to smile. Your lips don't cooperate. Someone starts a tiny fire near the brazier. Just enough for a warm stone. They pass it hand to hand. Like a relic. You get a turn. You press it to your cheek. Heaven. There's talk of hot tea. Or soup. Or something even vaguely liquid. But all of that depends on the sea, the fire, and whether the cook feels inspired or mildly homicidal. For now, it's cold bread and silent chewing. A gull lands nearby. Looks at your biscuit. Looks at you. Decides it's not worth it. Flies away. You laugh. Or try to. Your breath fogs. This is what breakfast looks like in the Norse North. Rigid food. Frozen fingers. And a quiet, stubborn joy that you're still here. Still chewing. Still able to find a crumb in your pouch when the world is wrapped in frost. You think of home. Of warm porridge. Of hands that weren't calloused. Of bread that didn't double as armor. But those memories are distant now. They belong to a different version of you. This you. The longboat you. Eats what the ocean permits. And today, the ocean permits cold. So you eat. You breathe. You brace for another day. And in the quiet, as the boat drifts through icy mist, you whisper thanks. Not for the bread, but for the teeth that almost survived it. Land appears like a rumor. First, a smear on the horizon. Then, slowly, it becomes more than a smudge. More than wishful thinking. Actual land. Green. Brown. Real. The longboat shifts. Not suddenly. Just enough that everyone starts sitting straighter. The oars move with more rhythm. The chatter dims. The chewing stops. This is it. The last stretch. You pull your cloak tight. Still sticky from yesterday's honey dream and stiff from this morning's bread war. You feel every muscle complain. Every callus throb. Every tooth thank the gods that nothing else needed chewing. Because now, it's time for the final snack. Someone opens a bundle tied beneath the captain's bench. Cloth unwrapped. Hands careful. Inside, a flat cake. Oats. Nuts. Bits of dried apple. Possibly egg. Possibly magic. It's brown and cracked. Dense but soft around the edges. You can smell cinnamon. No one speaks. Slices are cut with a blade that's more used to cutting enemies. Passed hand to hand like gold. You receive yours. Warm from sunlight. Heavy with promise. You eat slowly. The flavors aren't new. You've tasted oats. You've tasted nuts. You've even tasted apples. Once. on that good day between storms. But together, today, they mean something else. Finality. Arrival. Survival. This is the last meal before landfall. A quiet tradition. Not for fullness. Not even for energy. Just closure. You glance around. Everyone eats slowly. Reverently. It's not about the food now. It's about what comes after. Solid ground. Fire. Shelter. A chance to wash your hands without leaning over the edge of something that moves beneath you. Historians still argue whether Viking crews marked arrival with ritual meals or just sprinted off the boat. Some sagas describe feast fires built moments after landfall. Others imply that the real ritual was eating the last bite before docking, a kind of edible punctuation mark on the journey. You believe it. This bite feels different. It tastes like completion, and a little bit of soot, but mostly completion. The shore grows closer. You see trees, smoke, maybe a village. The oars lift, drop, lift again. Steady, silent. No one shouts. No one cheers. You're too tired, too salt, worn, too full of strange meals and shared glances and the kind of friendship that only happens when you've seen someone throw up after eating pickled fish by accident. You finish your cake. Lick your fingers. Let the breeze dry your lips. The boat glides. Slows. Scrapes. A gentle crunch against sand. You've landed. There's a moment, just one, where everyone stays seated, basking in the last quiet, the last taste, the last breath of boat, smelling air. Then someone stands, grabs a shield, spits into the sea, and just like that, the Viking longboat empties. Boots on sand, eyes scanning trees, stomachs cautiously optimistic. You follow. Step onto land. Feel the earth beneath your feet. And think, that last snack, maybe the best one yet, because it means you made it. And now the longboat drifts behind you. The creak of wood replaced by birdsong. The stink of fish replaced by the soft smell of soil. The last oatcake still lingers on your tongue. Not sweet. Not savory. Just enough. You sit beneath a tree. Back against bark. Fingers dusty from the trail. You can still feel the rhythm of the boat in your bones. Rocking. Swaying. Endless. And now, stillness. The air here doesn't move like sea air. It rests. Waits. Holds you. You close your eyes. Breathe deep. Let the journey settle. Salted fish. Frozen bread. Honey berries. The great butter incident. It all happened. And somehow, so did you. There will be more roads. More sails. More strange stews in stranger places. But not tonight. Tonight, you sleep with land under your body and stories in your stomach. And in your dreams. Maybe you'll find yourself back on that boat. One more bite to eat. One more laugh to share. One more spoonful of something both questionable and beloved. For now, you rest. The journey ends here.